today's video, we will going to learn about identifying and using transition signals. Welcome to class! When it comes to writing effectively, students are expected to use transitions to create cohesion, clarify, and convey sequence and signal shifts. Class objectives. At the end of this presentation, you'll be able to 1. Define transition signal. 2. Identify the types of transition signals. 3. Recognize words and phrases that signal coherence between sentences and paragraphs. 4. Explain the function and importance of transition signals. 5. Determine the connection between idea using transition signals as clues. And 6. Write a short persuasive paragraph to demonstrate appropriate use of transition signals. What is transition signals? Transition signals are connecting words and phrases that link sentences and paragraphs together so that there are no abrupt jumps or breaks between your ideas. They also act like signposts and emphasis markers that indicate to your reader when you are building up to some new idea or thought, or when you are trying to compare ideas or draw conclusions from preceding thoughts. The following transition signals are grouped according to relationship between ideas that they indicate. Words that show addition. These transitions tell you that the writer is presenting two or more ideas that continue along the same line of thought. They add to a thought that has already been mentioned. Example: and, in addition, first of all, furthermore, also, moreover, second, last of all, another, next, third, finally. Words that show cause and effect. Cause and effect transition signals that a writer is going to describe results or effects. They tell us what will happen because something else happened. Example: thus, as a result, therefore, because, consequently, since, if then, accordingly, so that, for that reason, as consequent. Words that show conditional or concessional. This transition diminish or uphold an accompanying idea. Example: although, even if, even though, conceding that, it may appear that, although, it is true that, in that case, however, otherwise, in spite of the fact that. Words that show sequential. These transitions present chronology of ideas, order, and manner of time. Example: to begin with, first, second, third, firstly, secondly, thirdly, initially, in the first place, then, next, later, eventually, finally, lastly, in conclusion, meanwhile, in the moment. Words that show clarification. These transitions clarify or illustrate a previous idea. Example: in fact, actually, as a matter of fact, really, truly, indeed, namely, clearly, certainly, naturally, definitely, undoubtedly, of course, by all means, without a doubt, particularly, specifically, that is, I mean, to clarify, to repeat. To rephrase, to illustrate, to demonstrate. For example, for instance, in particular, in other words, as an illustration, that is to say, this can be seen in, to put it another way. Words that show contrast. These transition words signal a change in writer's direction of thought. They tell us that a new idea will be different in a significant way from the previous one. Example: but, in contrast. Conversely, on the other hand, however, instead, nevertheless, on the contrary, yet still, even though, although, in spite of, despite. words that show comparison. These transition words indicate that the writer is pointing out a similarity between two subjects. They tell us that the second idea is like the first one in some way. Example, like, likewise, similarly, as, in like manner, in a similar fashion, just as, equally, in the same manner, in the same way, just like. Words that show summary. These transition words signal that the writer is about to summarize or come to a conclusion. They tell us that the idea that follows sums up what has gone before it. Example, in summary, all in all, to sum up, in conclusion, in brief, in the whole, in short, in other words, ultimately, to conclude. Let us take a look at this example. The 1,000 number of infected Filipinos to COVID-19 are growing. As consequent, other respiratory infections like the flu or the common cold are critical to increase the spread of illnesses. Public health measures are indeed encouraged to be followed as everyday preventive actions that include specifically to stay home when sick, to cover mouth and nose with flexed elbow or tissue when coughing or sneezing. In the same manner, to dispose used tissue immediately, to wash hands often with soap and water, and to clean frequently touched surfaces and objects. Before we end this presentation, let's find out what you learned. Read each persuasion statement of the World Health Organization, underline the transition signal and identify its function. 1. Minimizing contact with others by staying home and practicing social distancing will really help health systems better meet the needs of those who may have COVID-19. As a matter of fact, it is the best weapon to low down cases. 2. Instead of giving an overacting, follow recommendation by working from home and canceling trips, stay at home and practice social distancing. 3. It's not just affecting the one person, but in about 5 cycles of infection, you can be spreading this to hundreds of individuals, and that's the magnitude of why this is so important that everybody do their part. 4. It is important to understand that this social distancing is the right thing to do. Definitely, people can go outside and talk to their neighbors as long as they maintain infection prevention measures of keeping their distance about 6 feet, because that's how far and droplets can actually be carried if you cough and are mindful about the potential transmission. 5. We stay here for you to please stay home for us. As a result, it is each of us who will survive. This is something to remember. The prefix trans is from the Latin meaning across. Transitions help us make connections or move across ideas smoothly. They are connecting words or phrases that strengthen the internal cohesion of your writing. Transition signals act like bridges between parts of your writing. Now this time, I want you to express what you have learned in this lesson by completing the sentences below. 1. Transition signals are. 2. The types of transition signals are. And 3. The transition signals help me too. Thank you for joining today's class. I hope you learned something in this presentation.